Tarakam sir and Samshur sir. Friends, Jai Bhin to all. I'll speak in English. I will be very brief. I was rereading Brajranjan Mani's Debrahminizing History India today. Debrahminizing history. So he mentions So I was reading Brajranjan Mani's Debrahminizing History today. So interestingly, he mentions several instances of interpolations, forgery, appropriation, etc. in ancient India of Buddhist literature and shamanic literatures. So So I'm not a public speaker, so you'll have to bear with me for a little. So I was reading about these interpolations and appropriations and forgeries also in ancient Buddhist literature and also in shamanic literature. And he also interestingly mentions that even the Manusmriti was not written by any Manu. There were 7 Manus, we are told. The last one wrote the Manusmriti. But it is supposedly an interpolation too in the Purusha Sukta, which was inserted by one Sumati Bhargava. It was intercepted. So even that is a later interpolation, much later. And then we also read about Sambhishwaragaru was talking about 3 stages of post-independence India wherein Ambedkar was recognized. So if we go back a little in history, the 2000-year history, we also see this phase of first cleansing all Indian literature of Buddhist and shamanic influences. Then we come back to after Shankara, the 1000 AD or so, we come back to Basava. He is perhaps the only Brahmin, me answer cheppalante, probably the only Brahmin who ever tried to annihilate caste. So he had actually arranged a marriage of a Brahmin girl with a Dalit boy, so which resulted in a massive upheaval, and both the parents of the both girl and boy were killed, and there are lots of other violence perpetrated by the state of that time. And one of the key objectives of that counter-revolution after Basava, during Basava actually speaking, was to destroy all Vachana literature. That was one of these key objectives of that movement. So we see this particular book as not a this particular introduction and this particular introduction to the most key book of anti-caste literature, which is Annihilation of Caste, as not an isolated event. We see it from a historic point of view. We see it from as another step in the direction of consolidating Brahminical stranglehold on all ideological apparatuses, especially in the cultural field, in the education field. And this was one of the concerns expressed by most of the articles published in in protest against this book in our portal. So I'll just briefly summarize what was written, or at least one particular article I'll briefly quote, as Karthik was also referring to it. The annotations part is supposedly looked at as a harmless aspect of this book, but that is the most dangerous aspect in my view, because one of our writers, actually a couple of our writers, both non-dalits, they pointed out that out of the 160 or so bibliographical references in that book, in the annotations and all that, around 150 were non-dalits. There are only 10 or so Dalits and 2 or 3 OBCs, out of which Dr. Ailey was one, I think. And there was Aloysius also there, I think. So this is the most dangerous aspect, wherein, if you want to know about caste, being from a Dalit or an OBC background, you still have to go back to refer to Savarna text to learn what is caste about. So this is the most dangerous aspect. To know about our lives, we have to go back to the Brahmin and ask him again, is this our life? So that we are not going to, we are not going to stop with this book. And others have also talked about this being one book from under the Navayana stable, which is objectionable. I don't find that true actually. We have been researching a long list of their books, and the same writers so I mentioned also researched Navayana's titles until now. Out of 61 or so, around only around 10 or 12 are written by Dalits and OBCs. Only 2 OBCs, I think, and the rest are written by white people or Brahmins mostly, or other Savarnas. So this is no anti-caste publishing house. We know it from the beginning. Even his book on Dr. Ambedkar was written by Brahmins. Bhimayana. The text was written by Brahmins, and Phule becomes the Mali again in his book, the gardener in the wasteland. So there is a history, and we are not going to stop here. We are going to research. We are going to write. ఎవరు ఇక్కడ ఆగేటోళ్ళు ఎవరు లేరు తెలుగులో కానీ ఇంగ్లీష్లో కానీ ఎక్కడ కానీ. అండ్ రాసేవాళ్ళు అందరూ మామూలు ఉద్యోగాలు చేసుకుంటున్న వాళ్ళు, రీసెర్చ్ చేస్తున్న వాళ్ళు అందరూ టీచర్లు ఏం రాయట్లేదు. And they are researchers and they are writing with good substance. People who have read the site probably know about it. And the third aspect is the politics of the defense of this particular book. We have seen suddenly, as Karthik was also pointing out, how the Telugu media, which is contractor media, standing up for this book, and the Times of India, which is corporate media supposedly, standing up for this book. And we also seen universities and scholars from across India and Europe, Samanda scholars, and America also standing up, abusing us, calling us all kinds of names on the site and elsewhere in social media, because the social media is the only social media for Dalits and Bahujans. There is no other social media for Dalits and Bahujans outside the virtual media. All spaces are anti-social spaces for us. So let's be clear about that. So they have been calling us all kinds of names. That is also there. That is one structural aspect wherein they are springing into defend Arundhati Rai. Thirdly, ideologically, I find there no difference between when the book itself I have read except and also read other parts. I find no basic difference between what she wrote in 1994 when she was writing about Phulan Devi. She found no caste in her operation, and she finds no caste at all actually in the Dalit operation even now. Forget the OBCs and the Adivasis. She doesn't care about their particular situation. She can see them only as Dr. Sambashiva was pointing out, as only as sanitized, oppressed individuals, not in their particular location. She doesn't understand it, and she doesn't understand the hierarchy of part of it. She says the Brahmins oppress the Kshatriyas oppress the Vaishyas, the Vaishyas oppress the Shudras oppress the Dalits, and among the Dalits the Parayars oppress the Arundhatiyas. This is the kind of divisive politics she is playing. There is a structure. There are a few Varnas at the top, and the rest have only limited privileges. She wants to confuse the issue. She doesn't understand the hierarchy part of it, even though she literally mentions the word hierarchy. She doesn't understand it. I don't know how far this structural operation is from her view of class operation. There is a very clear zonal understanding of the issues at stake here, whether it was in Chhattisgarh or here. So there is a danger of popular writers. Tomorrow it could be Chetan Bhagat who would introduce the genesis of caste or whatever, because he is popular. They'll bring in Sachin Tendulkar also to introduce the untouchables in the ghetto. This is cheapening of the debate. Why should we debate? I mean, it's a pointless exercise. What is there to debate here? It is well known that she is not a Marxist. She clearly says we are not anti-capitalist. We are slightly, I mean, she has no commitment towards any particular, oppressor as such. She shifts stances, and she doesn't see the universality of all these struggles, from the Adivasis to the Bahujans to the Dalits to the blacks. They are all particular struggles. They are particular, but only in terms of the oppressor, local oppressor. So these are the few problems, and I believe this fight doesn't end with this. This struggle will not stop with this. We will not stop opposing this with only this book. We will research, because as Dr. Ayala probably knows, 99% of professors, teachers in central universities right now are Savarnas. There are no OBCs, no Dalits, no STs, all of them together don't comprise more than 1 to 2%. And what is the position in the media? We know quite well. We know very well. Even for the sake of just being politically correct, why can't the media say we'll implement affirmative action in our places? I find CAAAW much more acceptable than the Press Council of India. That's the point. This is a structural fight, and Arundhati Roy is an isolated ploy. It could be a mix of all kinds of people playing this game around. This strategy is a counter-revolutionary strategy, as Baba Sahib would have said. You would have recognized it immediately. As he said, there is no secular Brahmin and a liberal Brahmin. They are essentially the same, because you can't be a liberal and be a Brahmin. That's an oxymoron. So thank you all. It's been a great honor.